Hey everyone, Lisa from CMAC here. In this video, I'm going to continue on the topic of media literacy by covering some tools and tips on how to verify a source and detect bias, all of which can help you navigate the crowded landscape of media. Have you ever heard the saying, there are three sides to every story? Your side, my side, and the truth? In news, the goal is to get as close to the truth as possible while remaining objective. Techniques for achieving this include utilizing fact-based information like statistics and research data, collecting statements from witnesses, including multiple sides to an argument, and bringing in experts to help give insights to complex issues. As stated by the American Press Institute, the purpose of journalism is thus to provide citizens with the information they need to make the best possible decisions about their lives, their communities, their societies, and their governments. That means presenting you with information without also trying to persuade or influence your decision-making process. As you probably already know, there are many media outlets out there that claim to do this. However, they're not all created equal. Whether intentionally or unintentionally, some sources miss the mark. So how do we tell them apart? I'll tell you how we're gonna do it. We're going to put them all to the CRAP test. Created by the Merriam Library at California State University, Chico, the CRAP test serves as a quick assessment to determine if the information you've been given is good. More specifically, if that information is credible, reliable, and truthful. CRAP stands for currency, relevance, authority, accuracy, and purpose. Each of these has its own set of questions and criteria to help you evaluate the validity of the information you've been presented. Let's dive in. Currency. No, I don't mean money. I mean is it current? When was the article created? When was it published? The timeliness of information is often important for topics like medicine or technology. It also indicates the likelihood of whether or not recent updates in the discussion of the article's topic have been considered. Think of how frequently new information was released during the COVID-19 pandemic. Articles released in March wouldn't be nearly as relevant as those published months later, which leads us to our next section, relevance. Does the article match the headline? Does it provide context? How relevant is the information to the topic it claims to address? To help illustrate this a bit better, think of clickbait. How many times did you jump on a link only to be disappointed by the barrage of ads or pointless, irrelevant information that didn't reveal what the headline promised? A less obvious and subtle example is the red herring fallacy, which should also be synonymous with red flag. Red herring is a term to describe when an author uses an irrelevant piece of information to distract or misdirect the audience away from the topic being discussed. Like when the younger generation shows concern over tuition costs and the rise in student loan debt, but the older generation responds with, "In my day, I worked a summer job to put myself through college." That response completely ignores the topic at hand, which is what financing and education looks like today in the current economy, meaning that bit of information was irrelevant. Authority. Who is the author and what are their credentials? Are they qualified to write on this topic? Who is the publisher, source, or sponsor? If no author is listed, beware. That's a red flag. Without a name, we can't investigate further to determine their credibility or whether they are, in fact, real. With a name, we'd be able to see their level of education and any books or other articles they've written. If no contact information exists, that's also a red flag. Without a way to research or contact anyone, it's difficult to hold them accountable for the information they provide. Being able to research an author, publisher, source, or sponsor means we can see if there are any affiliations to other organizations that may demonstrate bias, something that may affect how or why they produce content. And if you're wondering what CMAC's authority is on this topic, check out the video that came before this one in the Media Lit series. Natalie goes over who we are, our background, as well as a brief overview of media literacy. Accuracy. Where did this information come from? Is it supported by evidence? Does the author tell you where they got their information? Can you verify that information in another credible source? Are there spelling or grammar errors? In asking these questions, we can determine if the author is selectively using facts, misquoting, or taking a quote out of context. A quick Google search of the study or partial statement will also reveal the full quote or data the author used. The cross-check can help you understand if the information has been modified to meet the author's purpose. We must also consider if the story features only one side of an argument. Remember the quote I gave at the top of this video? There are 3 sides to every story. Your side, my side, and the truth. If people only heard my side of things and not yours, it means they can't get a look at the whole picture. Be sure to exercise caution with articles that only report one side of the story. Because partial information and one-sided views also beg a very important question. What else has been left out? Luckily, there are a few trusted fact-checking websites who've done a lot of the debunking work for you. Sites such as Snopes.com, Washington Post Fact Checker, PolitiFact.com, and factcheck.org can help you to verify a claim. Purpose. Why does it exist? To inform, sell you something, entertain, or persuade you? Does the point of view appear objective and impartial? Are there political, ideological, cultural, religious, institutional, or personal biases? By simply asking why a story was created, we can usually determine whether or not it has a solid foundation for credibility. Going a little further and digging a little deeper, we can also follow the money, meaning that we can look to see who owns the media outlet we're getting the information from and gauge whether or not the owner has a motivation or bias to cover a topic in a particular light. Sort of like looking up the author under the authority section we just discussed. We can also look up owners of media outlets to see whether or not they have an invested interest in either covering or avoiding issues. For example, ABC 30, one of Fresno's local news stations, is owned by Disney. If you were to see that station doing coverage of Disney parks reopening after a shutdown due to COVID-19, it would be important to know who pays their bills. It may influence their coverage, how much or in what perspective of that reopening. Remember, the news is supposed to be objective and should allow you to reach your own conclusions without influence or bias. Detecting bias. Bias is disproportionately giving weight in favor of or against an idea or thing, typically in a way that is closed-minded or unfair. When it exists in media, it can skew the way information is presented, creating an influence on the audience. Sometimes, bias is obvious, such as in advertising. We can immediately sense when someone is trying to sell us something and apply the appropriate filters. Other times, it's much harder to detect if you don't know what to look for. One of the best indications of bias is language. Be wary of loaded language, meaning that the author is using judgment value words or those that assign emotional value in place of neutral words to elicit a positive or negative response. For example, instead of saying message, they say propaganda, or using tremendous to indicate something that's simply very good. More specifically, a conservative publication that may use the term pro-life instead of anti-abortion. Loaded language is intentional with the purpose to persuade an audience to agree with the author. Bias may also exist in other ways. Take a deeper look at any of your favorite media outlets and consider the diversity of the organization. How many experts are women or people of color? Fair.org, a nonprofit national media watch group, states that to fairly represent different communities, news outlets should have members of those communities in decision-making positions. In addition, there are even a few charts, like this one from Ad Fontes Media, that aim to help folks understand where a media organization might lean in their political bias, or whether they're more analysis, opinion, or fact reporting. They'll also label if a media organization is unreliable because they use selective, misleading, inaccurate, or fabricated information. It's worth noting that this chart and others like it are somewhat subjective. Ad Fontes Media states on their website regarding their chart to keep in mind that this rating system currently uses humans with subjective biases to rate things that are created by other humans with subjective biases and place them on an objective scale. With that in mind, the chart can assist us by cutting down on some of the research we would otherwise have to do on our own. Utilizing it as a quick reference tool, we can assess how likely or not the media platform we're looking at is giving us information that is credible, reliable, and truthful. Navigating the vast landscape of media might feel overwhelming, but with things like the crap test, fact-checking tools, charts, and these media literacy tutorials, the process of sifting out what's credible and what isn't gets easier the more you put these methods into practice. It's important to also remember that the term media isn't exclusive to news outlets, written articles, or broadcasts. It also encompasses photos, graphics, or memes found circulating on social media. Someone created it, and with a purpose. Our job is to put everything through a critical lens to determine if what's being presented is to help us make the best possible decision for our lives, community, and government, or simply to influence or persuade us. That's it for this video. Be sure to check out the other CMAC tutorials on media literacy and general production. For more information about CMAC, visit cmac.tv. Thanks for watching.